When Bill Blair goes door to door in search of votes, he rarely has to introduce himself.
Well, you know who I am. I'm running for the Liberals here in Scarborough Southwest.
His face is well known because it was in the media so much during his 10 years as Toronto's police chief. Now it's on campaign posters as he tries to win back Scarborough Southwest for the Liberals.
I have been a public servant, serving this community of Scarborough Southwest as a police officer and a police chief for decades. I want to continue to serve, and I think one of the best ways I can do that as a successful Liberal candidate, a member of Parliament, strong advocate, strong voice, and implementing the Justin Trudeau Liberal platform, which is going to make a difference in this community for all of its citizens, improvements in the quality of their life and opportunities for their kids.
Dan Harris gets recognized too.
Are you Dan Harris?
Yes, I'm Dan.
Are you running?
Yes, I'm the incumbent MP. Hi, nice to meet you.
This is our baby,
Hi.
Isaiah.
Hi, Isaiah.
We'll definitely be voting for you.
Excellent, thanks so much.
Harris is a former IT technician who once worked for an oil sands company. He lost in this riding 3 times, but in the last election he rode Jack Layton's Orange Wave to an upset victory. Now he's hoping that tide doesn't turn.
Reason to vote NDP is to repair the damage created in the last 20 years by successive Liberal and Conservative governments that has taken good-paying jobs and sent them elsewhere, that hasn't improved wages or pensions or even access to employment insurance. You know, these are all sorely lacking in Scarborough Southwest, and we need a new government and a different vision.
Okay, so we'll be doing door knocks for 4 hours, then take a break, and then we'll be heading to Temple. Pretty much.
Conservative candidate Roshan Nalaratnam is also a police officer. Born in Sri Lanka, he moved to Canada in 2006, and when he joined the force 6 years ago, he was given his badge by his rival, Bill Blair.
The reason for people should vote for me for this election here in Scarborough Southwest is I'm a common man, like to represent common people, and this riding especially, it is filled with every single diverse community you can think about. And I will be the strong voice in Ottawa for every single member in this community.
Everyone completely receptive. And
adding some spice to the race, Green candidate Tommy Taylor. He was caught in the police crackdown at the G20 summit 5 years ago, and his main target is the police chief who was then in charge.
I would say at this point we should know that Bill Blair is a man who will not be held to account. He refuses. But what I can do is provide the people of Scarborough Southwest with a better option, with somebody who will champion their civil liberties, no matter the color of their skin. The Charter applies to everybody.
The riding is a mix of old neighborhoods and new Canadians. Expensive homes in the south line the top of the Scarborough Bluffs, a natural attraction amid the urban sprawl that spills down to parks and beaches on the shores of Lake Ontario. To the north, the main artery through Scarborough Southwest is known as the Golden Mile. It was once lined with factories that made everything from candy to cosmetics, toys to typewriters. But the Golden Mile is tarnished now. The factories are all but gone, replaced by strip malls and low-paying retail jobs. Half of the 105,000 residents are visible minorities. 20% are South Asians, 11% are Muslims. All federal parties have promised to help fund better public transit as Toronto debates whether to extend the subway or build light rail to more distant parts of Scarborough. Unemployment here is above the national average. The average family income is well below it at $83,000. Only 17% have a university education. Former broadcaster Hetty Corby now teaches journalism and runs a community online news service in the riding.
It's a former industrial powerhouse, but a lot of the plants in manufacturing have gone, and what remains are the strip malls. You've got different communities. You've got ethnic communities. We're 45% immigrants, whatever that means in this day and age. There is a strong Tamil community. There are Muslim communities. There are non-multicultural communities, so it's a real sort of mixing pot.
This riding was a solid red stronghold for almost 25 years. Formed in 1968, it flipped back and forth between the three main parties until 1988, when the Liberals put a lock on it with 6 straight victories. But in the last election, the Liberal vote fell by 13%, the NDP rose by 14%, and squeaked out a surprise victory in a close 3-way race. This time, Bill Blair is betting that Justin Trudeau has more appeal than Michael Ignatieff did, and is counting on that to lure back voters who defected from the Liberals last time. Dan Harris is confident that his 4 years as MP have solidified his standing in the riding, and though it's shaping up as a 2-way orange-red race, Roshan Nalaratnam believes that the strong Conservative base here is a good reason not to write him off as a viable threat. So, Dan, you're being chased by the police.
Two
of them.
2 of them, yes. 1 current and 1 former. But I mean, this is the riding that my family's called home since the 1920s, and I'm certainly not going to run away from anybody. This is my 6th campaign in this riding, and where my family's grown up, and I'm looking forward to the chance to represent it again for another 4 years.
Last time, Liberal vote collapsed by 13%, NDP went up 14%. You won a squeaker in a 3-way race. How do you make sure that that change vote doesn't go back to Bill Blair and the Liberals?
Well, if you actually look at Mr. Blair, that's not much of a change vote at all. The Liberals, of course, supported C-51, and Mr. Blair himself said he doesn't think any of the powers and mandates of C-51 go too far. So that's not really a change from the Conservatives at all. And of course, we've put in a lot of work over the last 4 years to represent the local residents here and in Ottawa, and done what we could to reconnect voters with the federal government. And I think that kind of work is going to pay off. It's the NDP that's going to raise corporate taxes. It's the NDP that's going to bring in good quality, affordable childcare, which of course people remember the Liberals promised in 1993, they promised it in 97, they promised it in 2000, and they promised it in 2004, and then never delivered on any of it until they needed Jack Layton's vote on a budget, and Jack forced them to roll back corporate tax cuts and start to create that childcare plan. But then the Liberals went missing in action the next year. A child that was born in the early 90s is close to being able to have kids of their own now, and we're still waiting for that child care program. So people do remember things like that. They remember free trade and NAFTA, which the Liberals and Conservatives were complicit in, and now we have the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPP, to worry about, and the Liberals and Conservatives are on the same page on all of those policies. So it's really only the NDP that stands apart in the main 3 parties.
Mm-hmm. Being an incumbent, last time you ran, you were a bit of a surprise winner. Being an incumbent, how much of an advantage do you see that as, and how has that helped?
Well, I mean, as the incumbent, of course, I've had 4 years of representing the residents of Scarborough Southwest. So there's a track record there. There's, of course, my private member's bill to give Remembrance Day the same legal status as Canada Day and Victoria Day. There's my voting record in the House of Commons of standing up to Stephen Harper against bills like C-51, which a lot of people in this area care about because it touches on their rights. So, I mean, being the incumbent and, of course, going to community events and being a part of this community and living here, all of these things add up to the fact that while he might be a known quantity around the city, a lot of local residents remember me from, a family function or from a barbecue or for me having knocked on their door.
So what's the difference between being police chief, where people listen to what you say, and being a candidate where you have to listen to what the voters say?
Do you know, I've been coming into neighborhoods like this my entire life. And when you arrive at this neighborhood wearing a police uniform, and certainly as I was a police chief, you come to a community like this and say, how do I help? What can I do for you? And I still want to help, and I still want to serve these communities, but during an election, you have to come in and ask a different question. You have to ask them, will you vote for me? And that's a very different experience for me. I'm trying to get used to it, but quite frankly, I'm still inclined to come in and say, what do you need from me? And then try to figure out how to help.
The Conservatives are the tough-on-crime, law and order party. You're a police person. A lot of people might have thought that was the party that you would end up with. Why the Liberals? And why not the Conservatives?
Roger, let me tell you, first of all, in my experience, I was a cop for almost 4 decades, and the police chief in this city responsible for keeping it safe for over a decade. I don't believe in tough talk. I believe in smart action. And quite frankly, when I spoke to the Liberal Party and have worked with the Liberal Party in the past, I believe they're ready to make the type of investments in the community that make a difference and to support smart actions on crime that really make our communities safer. I've had a lot of experience in keeping communities safe, and Toronto has become one of the safest large cities in the world. We didn't do that just by arresting a lot of people. We didn't do that by talking tough about crime. We did that by coming into neighborhoods and working with people and trying to make a difference.
Last election, Liberal support collapsed here. That vote went to the NDP. How do you get that vote back?
Well, one door at a time. And quite frankly, I came into this community. I have a long-standing relationship with the people of the entire city of Toronto, but I have a strong relationship with the people of Scarborough and Scarborough Southwest. And so, quite frankly, I've gone to the doors. I've met with the people, and I've listened to their concerns. I have put forward through my party a platform which I think is going to make a very significant difference for the people who live here. An investment in this community that will improve the quality of their lives and improve the strength of our neighborhoods. And I'm hoping that they know me, they'll trust me, and also they'll recognize that it is very much in their interest to vote for a party that's prepared to make investments now, not 8 years from now, to make a difference in their communities and opportunities for their kids today.
Some of your critics suggest that you're, on Bill C-51, for example, that you actually support that and actually want more powers of preventative arrest.
Actually, I think it's a really important issue on C-51. And so while I support those provisions and authorities that law enforcement and the national intelligence people require to keep us safe, I also believe that what's missing in that bill and what must be replaced is the checks and balances, that effective judicial and parliamentary oversight, transparency and public accountability, a respect for people's privacy and a respect for people's rights. Many of those things are missing from the current bill, and so we undertake and make an absolute commitment to the people of this community and the people of the country that when elected we'll fix that as a first order of business. We need to keep this place safe, but we also need to protect our people's rights and freedoms.
So what's it like to run against your former boss?
This is a question I've been asked a few times, and all I can say is that it is a coincidence. First of all, me and him running in one riding, and apart from that, I'm running for Conservatives who are always supportive of tough on crimes, and Bill Blair, he's aligned with the Liberal Party, and they have different views on tough on crimes, and apart from that, I don't see any big impact or anything like that.
Right. So why did you choose to run for the Conservatives?
Because my values align with Conservatives, and I've been a policeman for the past 6-7 years, and Conservative, the way they put in some laws with tough on crime bills, and personally, the way I was brought in within my family is very conservative. So that tradition and that belief I have in Conservative, that put me to run for Conservatives.
Are you surprised about Bill Blair running for the Liberals? What's your impression, and what problems do you see him running for the Liberals?
I have few issues with him. As a chief, I don't see much problem. I was working under him. But talking about politics, he joined a party which is totally like to legalize marijuana. And for him, is a police officer for the past 30 years and being a chief for 10 years. Telling legalizing marijuana is okay now is a bit kind of mind-boggling for me and people in the neighborhood. And also, he supported every single Conservative bill brought in Parliament, and where Liberals opposed every single bill. And now he jumped with the Liberals. So that is a bit mind-boggling, the steps he has taken, like flip-flopping.
The Conservatives attack your leader, Justin Trudeau, for his promise to legalize marijuana, but you were, in fact, one of the guys behind that policy, even though you're a police officer. Why do you think it's such a good idea?
Yeah, let's be really clear. We're talking about legalize and replace the criminal sanction with strict regulation. Our goals with marijuana is to keep it out of the hands of kids, to get it out of the hands of organized crime, reduce the violence and victimization associated to it, to facilitate a robust public health response because there are legitimate health concerns associated to the use of marijuana, Overwhelmingly, the evidence and the science says that's the right way to do this thing. Right now, the criminal sanction's not working. 23% of our high school kids and almost 40% of people under 30 are using marijuana in this country. We think it's a dangerous drug. We think a better way to control its use and to keep it away from kids is through strict regulation.
I had my first ever political debate the other night, and it was up against a seasoned guy like Bill Blair, and the reviews for that were almost, I'd say, just as good as any theater review I've had. It's strange that you have
Tommy Taylor is driven by what happened 5 years ago when he was an innocent bystander caught in the police crackdown on protesters at the G20 summit.
5 years ago, I was amongst the over 1,000 people in the city that were unlawfully arrested and detained at the G20. My wife and I were trying to head home. We live in downtown Toronto, and we were part of a mass arrest down in front of the Novotel, where the police kettled off the entire street, people just trying to go home, people coming out of restaurants. All of them were placed under arrest unlawfully and sent down to the detention center, and spent 24 hours in detention, left in handcuffs in an overcrowded cage, and I actually passed out begging for water. And that is sort of in a nutshell what happened. I was released without charge. My arrest was found to be unlawful, still waiting for accountability on that whole scene.
And that turned you into an activist.
Since the G20, I became a very, very active activist, I guess, in the world of civil liberties. Did a lot of projects very closely with the Canadian Civil Liberties Association. Beforehand, my work was in theater, and I actually developed a one-man show about my experience at G20, toured across the country, went up to the Yukon, BC, and hosted panel discussions on civil liberties across this country. And I'm running here in Scarborough Southwest. The thing that was sort of my last call to action was Bill C-51. And the Liberal Party voted in favor of Bill C-51, which compromises our civil liberties on a massive scale, and then they decided to run Bill Blair here in Scarborough Southwest. And I remember reading a news article where Bill Blair was talking about wanting to expand preventive arrests. And I have an arrest sheet at home that says a preventive arrest was made on me. 1,000 other people in the city have that exact same arrest sheet. And I know Bill Blair will say, well, C-51's about terrorists. Bill Blair's command center unlawfully said everyone in the streets was a terrorist. And we've seen no accountability, we've seen no transparency. That's how easily these laws get misused.
We had a summit and all of its world leaders that had to be protected, and unfortunately there were also people that came with a different agenda. They came to loot and to burn and to smash. And so trying to manage all of those things was an enormous challenge for all of the law enforcement agencies that were working there that day. There were things that were done exceptionally well and some things that could have been done better. And in the aftermath of that, I fulfilled my responsibility as the people's chief by doing a very, very thorough and transparent, objective after-action report. Published it, made it public, published quite a number of recommendations, implemented all of those recommendations.
Have you ever said sorry for the things that went wrong?
No, what I did was fixed the things that went wrong, changed our policies, our procedures, our training.
I'm Dan Harris, your Member of Parliament. Fantastic, thanks so much.
You voted for you last time.
Excellent, well that's why I got in last time.
Hoping to hold his seat, Dan Harris is trying to woo progressive Liberals by linking Blair to the Conservatives on law and order issues like C-51, the government's anti-terror bill.
Well, I think Mr. Blair certainly loses votes and loses the argument in saying that they're progressive, because many of his policies have been more regressive and more conservative-minded. So he might be picking up votes from conservatives, but I think he's losing progressive Liberal voters here in Scarborough Southwest.
And the Muslim community is a flashpoint for another controversy over carding. That's the police practice of stopping people to gather personal information. Critics say racial profiling means Muslims and blacks are disproportionately the target.
Well, in this area, there's certainly an issue that's come up time and time again with regards to law enforcement, and that's the carding policies of Toronto Police, which Mr. Blair enacted many of, and certainly created a legacy of mistrust among Toronto Police and several of the communities in this area. And even the former police board chair, Alec Mukherjee, said that Blair was the obstruction to reform on carding. And I mean, that's attacking our civil liberties, and we don't think it has any place in Scarborough.
A frontline police officer, we do what we're told to do, and that question should be directed to the upper command. That would be former Chief Mr. Bill Blair, because he's the one brought that legislation. So if anyone got to be questioned, it should be him.
It's absolutely essential for police officers to do their jobs and keep communities safe, that they have the ability to gather information, to record that information, and to share that information. And it's equally essential in a diverse society to make sure that they never do that in a biased or racially motivated way. And so we need to be able to do police work, and we need always to do it right.
So it hasn't been undermined, you're arguing, in this community by racial bias?
I said on the very first day I became the Chief of Police in 2005, I was asked, can racial profiling occur? I said, of course it can occur, because we recruit from the human race, and all police officers can be subject to all human frailties. But it's not tolerated in the Toronto Police Service. It should never be tolerated in policing.
Hi, I'm Roshan, the Scarborough Southwest candidate. What's your name?
Arun.
Arun? Yeah. How are you doing, Arun, today?
Good, thank you.
Looking like a long shot, Roshan Nalaratnam is banking on the Conservative base to beat back calls for a change in government.
Like Liberals and NDP, we cannot have them at this point because we have a global unstable economy, and we need a leader who can manage the economy and who can help the hardworking Canadians move ahead, especially in this unstable economy. It's going good.
He's also counting on the Tamil community to back one of its own.
Conservative candidate, support engalukku kandipa venum. So you're supporting us? Yeah? Okay, thank you.
There's a large Tamil community in this riding. You are Tamil Canadian. Bill Blair once received an award from the Tamil Congress for his leadership. Where does the Tamil community go? Can you count on its support, or is it factionalized here?
There's no fraction Tamil community, and have very good support within the Tamil community, and the Canadian Tamil Congress is specified giving him a leadership award. They're pro-liberal organization, but they're a good organization. They work hard for the Tamil community, but they're very pro-liberal organization. So the award given from them, I wouldn't take as a serious issue.
Sammy Appadurai hosts a Tamil language TV show. He thinks some older Tamils will vote for Nalaratnam because of his roots, but many others look beyond that.
As far as the Tamils are concerned in this particular riding, not only the Tamil, the ethnic votes are concerned, comparatively the lower income people are in majority in this riding. So their concern is more on economy this time than the other factors.
We can expect, I think, a fair bit of support from the Tamil community for that candidate, although he's not polling all that well, so you could expect that some of the Conservative support might bleed to Bill Blair, because he is seen as a candidate who's strong on law and order.
And those are important issues in those communities.
I think law and order is an important issue everywhere in Scarborough Southwest. We don't have a lot of crime. It's not what the media portrays it to be, but it's the suburbs. People are raising families, and crime is just one of the things that they care about in all of our communities.
Corby doesn't think the attacks on Blair over civil liberties are resonating as much as his rivals would like.
This riding, it's the suburbs. It's not downtown Toronto, and as I say, people care about civil rights, but they're more interested in some of the bread and butter issues than, things like carding.
But Tommy Taylor is trying to make sure people care, and he finds some who do.
Are you thinking of voting Liberal in this upcoming election? Okay. The one thing I just encourage people to do is just take a look at Bill Blair's public accountability record.
I'm not happy with Bill Blair in the least.
Okay. I'm hearing this a lot.
I'm a split personality.
More so a Liberal and not a Bill Blair supporter.
I was going to go NDP, and I'm kind of going back to Liberal again, because I like the idea of Trudeau, the younger guy, getting a chance at it.
I see what you're saying.
But I detest Blair.
Some houses along here, I'm getting, I just hate what he did at the G20, or I hate his attitude. I hope they've never answered his questions. In other parts of the riding, people are like, he keeps promoting carding. He's inflicting carding upon my community. And it's just, it's such a strange choice for the Liberal Party to be running this guy.
Do you think he's just in this to target you?
You know, we've had an opportunity to discuss some of the issues impacting this community, and he didn't demonstrate much interest in doing that. Kept on interrupting me when I tried to do that. So, quite frankly, I'm remaining focused on the people of Scarborough Southwest.
How do you feel about his candidacy and the way he's behaved during the campaign?
I'm not going to indulge myself in feelings. I've got a job to do here. I want to serve the people of this community. I want to be able to present to them a plan for a future that's going to improve the quality of their lives, improve the opportunities for their kids. I want to serve this community. And quite frankly, I'm not going to allow myself to be distracted by one individual's personal agenda.
In this election, when I'm knocking on doors,
at this all-candidates debate, only 2 show up, and they take aim at the empty chairs.
Candidates think that their time is better spent elsewhere. Instead of in front of the people, instead of giving the people the chance to ask them questions.
If this particular election is frustrating you, put up your hands. Put up your hands, yeah? All right, let's shout out. What are some of the things that are frustrating you in this election? Just yell them out.
Where's Bill?
Where's Bill? Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one. What else?
I'm insulted by the fact that these 2 jokers didn't show up.
The Conservative hasn't appeared at any debates. As for Blair, an advisor said there was nothing to be gained in a beatdown by the Green NDP tag team and more votes to be found elsewhere. So, why aren't you at the debate tonight? Why are you here?
Because I have a couple hundred people here who are residents of Scarborough Southwest, and we're going to talk about the Liberal platform and how we can help this neighborhood.
Blair saw more upside here at a meeting with members of the South Asian community where he pitched the Liberal Party as a more compassionate friend.
And I'd like to share with you our plan, if Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party form that government, what you can expect from us. Our platform is our promise to you.
The Liberals have a star candidate, and they're riding pretty high. They've seen their polls increase steadily. From June, they were running neck and neck with the NDP incumbent, Dan Harris, and now we're at a point where they're about 10 points ahead of Dan Harris. They're desperate to win it back. I think they know they can win it back, especially with the surge of Trudeau nationally in the polls. And so I think they're feeling pretty confident.
In Scarborough Southwest, there's no better place than one of those malls along the Golden Mile to get a sample of what voters are thinking.
I always vote Conservative.
Why?
They have more discipline, laws, family, education. They're trying to keep Canada together more than other parties. That's very important.
I think that Justin Trudeau, his policy is good. I like. Yep, that's it.
So, if you could, you'd vote Bill Blair?
Yeah, I like that, yeah. Because their policy about the middle class, what they told, I think if they can do that, of course it will help them.
I guess I haven't thought about it that much. I know I'm not voting Conservative, but past that I haven't decided, Liberal or NDP.
Who are you going to vote for and why?
No one. I'm not going to vote for anyone.
Why?
I don't feel any of them are worthy. Stephen Harper, he was okay in the beginning, but now nothing's improved. Everything's gotten worse. And the Liberals, they don't have a strong leader. And that just leaves the NDP. But I don't have any confidence in the NDP yet.
We're undecided because we're not hearing the points that we want to hear. Like for the seniors, we're both retired. And we're not seeing any extra income. It seems like we're spending more and more on groceries and other things. So I think right now it's a toss-up. It's a real toss-up.
Toss-up between whom?
I'd say all three.
Whether the undecided actually vote and whom they support could make a difference if the race is as close as last time. For CPAC, I'm Roger Smith in Scarborough Southwest.